the Pop Brothers at Law Shut the Fuck Up show. And of course, it's Shut the Fuck Up Friday. And right now, today, we've got a very special guest. It's going to be actually our first interview, our second interview here on the Shut the Fuck Up Friday show. And we are very pleased to have with us James McLynas. And James is running for sheriff in Florida. And he's got a very interesting background and story.
You don't have to watch it.
What? I can't hear you, Craig.
No, Landon asked me a question.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah. So James McLynas reached out to us a couple weeks ago. He's running for sheriff, and he noted that he is going to not enforce cannabis laws if he in fact becomes sheriff. And he reached out and asked for the Pop Brothers-in-law to endorse him. And we've been getting asked by a lot of different candidates, from senators to congressmen, who are running on platforms that are looking to abolish cannabis laws. And we've interviewed a few. Christopher Cole, I believe, who is friends with James McLynas, we interviewed, and we are now endorsing him, senator out of Florida over there. So without further ado, let's bring in James McLynas and get to it. James, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you guys doing?
Very good.
As well as can be expected during these nutty times, man.
Oh, these are exciting times, though. There's change on the horizon. It's coming fast.
It has to.
Before we start with questions and stuff, we'll give you an opportunity to take a few minutes to tell everybody who you are, what you're about. We know that I believe you're not or have ever been in law enforcement.
That's correct.
And so give us some background and tell us about yourself.
Well, the short Reader's Digest version of it is went through a Jerry Springer type custody battle. My ex took up with multiple police officers. These police officers then started harassing me. I then filed complaints against them, which the sheriff and the local police departments did nothing about. And it showed me that they were corrupt from the very bottom to the very top. So finally, out of frustration, I told the current sheriff, Robert Galtieri, that I was going to run for sheriff against him at the 2016 election. And his response was to arrest my 10-year-old daughter in handcuffs while she was at my ex-wife's house. And then 5 days later, he arrested me. He filed 4 false felony charges against me. He then used a Stingray tracking device without the proper warrant. He had me arrested the day before my custody hearing, so I could not show up in court so that I would lose my daughter. Now, at that point in time, I had already made arrangements with a guardian ad litem, and he brought my story to the court. And that day, I was awarded 100% custody while I was in jail. I'm the only person in the state of Florida to obtain 100% custody while I was in jail. So obviously, I got out of jail. I went and I ran against him back in 2016. I only got to campaign for about 3 months only on Facebook, and I got over 100,000 votes here in Pinellas County. People are obviously very upset and not very happy with the sheriff, but the problem is there isn't really viable candidates ever in sheriff elections around the country that will actually change anything until now.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, and we've encountered, as lawyers doing what we do for, between us, we have 50 years of experience in seeing the awful manipulative things that some law enforcement and attorneys representing them do to manipulate the system and to do what they tried to do to you. It's wonderful that you came out on the right side of it and were able to prove and show everything that happened to you. And so the incumbent that you're running against, what has he been doing with regards to like cannabis laws?
They have now in Pinellas County, they have legalized medical, but that doesn't, and we also have legalized hemp here in Florida, which means that the smell of cannabis is no longer probable cause to search a car. But our current sheriff doesn't give a damn. He still searches everybody. If you have a medical card and you say, oh, wait, I know you smell pot, but I've got my medical card right here. All they do is yank you out of the car and search your car because that supposedly gives them probable cause to determine how much you have, which is exactly what my point is, that the whole process of legalization, begging Tallahassee, begging the state legislators to change these laws, all you're going to do is get a bunch of laundry list of regulations that are going to still keep it criminalized and they'll still use to harass people. So you have to go.
Well, welcome to California.
Yeah, that's the same way everywhere. They
Although
pretend.
I don't know out there, at least here now that probable cause isn't smell isn't probable cause, they still do it anyways. But
Yes.
when people watch our shit and they don't consent, we get those thrown out left and right. So the courts are enforcing that, but the cops are still doing it. And
Well, sure. Go ahead.
we
And
watch
that's the problem with the police industry. They really don't give a damn. They've been on this gravy train of arresting anybody and everybody they can and throwing them in jail to collect those federal per head dollars while they're incarcerated. So this is just a money machine for them. We're just a crop, and it doesn't really matter whether you did anything wrong or right. You're still going to go to the jail, and you're still going to go through the process. Yeah, you might be able to get them off, and you might be able to say, hey, you didn't do the probable cause for the search, but it doesn't make any difference. The people were still arrested. They still get an arrest record. Their lives are in many cases ruined. They're not going to be able to get gainful employment with that on their arrest record, and the process hurts them even though they really didn't do anything wrong. And that's why we need to change it at the source. And what I mean by the source is not at the legislation source. I mean at the source, the people that put the handcuffs on you. That's where it has to change.
And so that would have to do with, we're getting into police training and all of that. I've always felt it's a problem, for us as attorneys. We went to school for 4, 5, 6, 7 years. Doctors go for 10 years. Cops get trained, what, 3, 4, 5, 6 months or something like that?
Here, yeah.
How does that make any sense?
I don't actually even think it has anything to do with the training, because they're being given marching orders to go out and round up these people no matter what. Sheriff Galtieri put out this memo to all the officers that said, well, now we need probable cause plus. So what they want you to do is they want you to ask questions about where they're going or when was the last time and anything like that to try and ham these people up and still wind up arresting them anyway. But the point is that if you have a proper law enforcement agent, meaning the correct constitutional sheriff in place, as a sheriff, I can literally come in, which I will, and I will literally tell my deputies that it's over. We're not going to arrest anybody. We're not going to enforce a single cannabis law. We're not going to pull anybody over for anything. If they grow pot in their backyard, so what? If they have a head shop and they're selling pot on their counters, so what? So the bottom line here is a sheriff actually has the ability to do that. But a state police or a local police or a police department doesn't, because they're beholden to the mayor and the city councils. They're basically lapdogs for the local government. And everybody rallies, all these protests are against the police agents. But the person in charge of those police agencies is the mayors and the city councils. But that's why you never get anywhere with the police agents, because you have to get the mayors to do it, and they're just not going to. But a sheriff, on the other hand, a sheriff is not working for the mayor or the city or the county. He is a power in and of himself. And he has the ability to do all kinds of things to stop this nonsense immediately. And that's why I'm running for sheriff, to do those things. But you'd never get those kinds of reforms from somebody who's already indoctrinated into the police industry for decades. And then they get to be the head sheriff, and they're going to keep doing the same things they've always done for the last 20 years. No change will come from within the police industry.
Well, I mean, we've also been shouting for years, telling people to get out and vote on the cannabis issue as well as all other issues. And hopefully there will be a landslide. And we're telling people, get in there, know your candidates. If it's city council level, they're the ones who oversee the police department. Get the people in there who are going to do something. And what you're doing is absolutely, it's great to see it from that level to where it can be done, where we're not enforcing this. And we're going to follow the law. We're going to follow the law that smell is improbable cause.
Well, it's probable cause or not. I don't care if there's a state statute that says we need to arrest people for pot. I'm not going to be enforcing it anymore at all. Did I lose you guys?
Yeah, hey, we love that. We love hearing that. And there's so much going on right now across the whole country. And I'm sure you're seeing, here's something that we posted today. I'm going to put it up on the screen, a quick video. You probably already saw it. And a lot of people are trying to say it's fake and all this stuff, but take a look at this.
He is freaking! He's volunteers! He's bleeding out of here! Get him better! What the fuck you walking up on me? I'm gonna get him! Get the fuck away! I don't want this shit! Back up! Get off your steps, let's go, get back!
Had you seen that before now?
I'm sorry, I bleeped out. I couldn't even see anything you showed me. Which one was that? I've seen so many of them.
It was the old man getting pushed
Pushed
and then
backwards.
back on his head and bleeding.
Yeah, I've
And
seen that.
there was another view to that from across the street, and it just was brutal. You could just see him get pushed down, and the one we have, you can't actually see him hit his head. You can hear it, but you can see it on the one. There's another view of that. It's like, my God.
Well, that's not uncommon. And what's happening now is right with all the protests, you've got people all over the place with cameras, and you're having the entire police station ridiculously put their abuses on stage for everyone to see. It's as if they don't even understand, and they don't. They're blind to this. They don't think they're doing anything wrong. And they never will think they're doing anything wrong because that's part of the police culture. And that's why it's so critical to bring someone in who is not indoctrinated into that culture to take over. A sheriff is just an administrative position, just like a mayor or a city county clerk. And we don't have to have a law enforcement officer in charge of law enforcement. We can actually have a civilian like myself in charge of law enforcement to bring in these reforms. And we can bring in massive use of force reforms. There's an entity out there called Campaign Zero. And they're working with Black Lives Matter. What they've done is they've researched use of force laws from all over the world that have worked and are actually implemented. They put them all together into one concise use of force platform position, and they've been asking people to adopt it, sheriffs and agencies to adopt it, but nobody will. But I am adopting the full use of force Campaign Zero platform to stop all use of force abuses. And it's not that difficult. It's very simple process and policies, but they're just refusing to do it because they want to kick your ass and they don't want to be told they can't.
Right. No, it's unfortunate. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I'm speechless at some of the things that we've seen. And like everybody is saying, as you did, it's not so much that, oh my God, it's getting worse. It's no, we have cameras on our phones and everybody's doing it.
Yes.
And it's showing the widespread, even during these times that's happening. It's just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, I grew up on the rough streets of Detroit, and when you dealt with the police in Detroit, it was a coin toss. Either you were going to have a cop that was kind of nice and didn't really give a damn, or you were going to have a cop that was going to beat the shit out of you. Pardon me, I don't know if you can say that on here,
Yeah,
but it was a coin toss either way. And I've had many a rough rides in Detroit, and I've literally had a Detroit police officer through the plexiglass window trying to beat me with one of those long cell flashlights while I was handcuffed in the back of a car.
Now,
and,
how's your campaign coming?
It's come along pretty good. We're getting a lot of support from all over the country, but they're kind of trying to screw all of the people like myself out of the right to run. Every state has to have an alternative to paying the massive fees. For me to be on the ballot, it's a $10,300 fee. Don't tell me what that's for. I have no idea. But the alternative is to do petitions where you go out and get signatures of people. And if you get 6,640 signatures, then they'll let you on the ballot. But then the governor here made signature collection a non-essential activity, which means it was illegal. And then you couldn't find groups of people to sign up even if you did. So basically they've eliminated that whole process of being able to do it without coming up with the money. And now they're holding my candidate position hostage for a $10,300 check. And so One of the things I'd like to do is I'd like to ask all of your viewers and supporters to go out to my webpage and donate to my campaign so that I can get on that ballot so I can kick this sheriff's butt and take over the police agency.
Wow. We're going to spread the word.
Why don't you post that, Mark? Put that up there for a minute. Give us your website.
It's McLynasforsheriff.com, and it's spelled McLynas forsheriff.com. Pretty simple stuff. And on that same webpage is all my platform positions. Every single thing that the current people are protesting against from coast to coast are very clearly addressed in my platform positions. I can literally, in Pinellas County, solve every single one of their concerns the day of my election.
Wow.
There we
That's
go.
It.
McLynasforsheriff.com. You guys go support this wonderful man who understands that this plant is a plant and shouldn't be anything more than that. People shouldn't be getting in trouble. Now,
I don't know whether you can see my badge, my symbol here. It's actually the Pinellas County Sheriff's badge with a pot leaf in the center of it.
Yes,
Sweet.
very nice. Now,
that's what go ahead.
I was just going to ask, do you yourself use cannabis?
I grew up in Detroit in the 70s. Of course I've used cannabis. Any of those politicians that say, no, I didn't, they're all lying,
Yes.
But, I believe in truth and I believe in transparency. Sure, I've used cannabis, and it's not something that I would be ashamed of. As I get older and I start to have a lot of these aches and pains, I'm probably going to look to using it again in the future. And I certainly don't want to get my ass beaten on the beach of Pinellas County because I decided to light up a joint while I watch the sunset.
We should be
Hallelujah.
allowed to.
That's crazy.
Exactly. Well, another interesting aspect of this whole thing is we had a lot of unconstitutional shutdowns of businesses from coast to coast. And these things damage the economy across America in ways we have yet to feel. I mean, it's just starting. 20% of the businesses are going to fail. We're going to have huge unemployment rates. People are out of work. People are starving. People are hungry. And that might be why we're seeing a lot of the looting that we're seeing now. They have no other way to feed their families. But the point that I'm getting at is here in Pinellas County, I'm positioning the cannabis freedom to make Pinellas County a cannabis-friendly county because we had 15 million tourists come into Pinellas County in 2019. We had 130 million come into the state of Florida. And if you go by the general statistics of 22, maybe 24% of the population that uses cannabis on a fairly regular basis, that's about 30 million people that came to the state of Florida that are cannabis friendly. So what I'm saying is if Pinellas County became a cannabis friendly county, like I will make it, then I think that we can get those 30 million people to come to Pinellas County instead of going to the other counties where they'll be harassed. And I literally think that my position can not only heal the economy of Pinellas County, I think we can double and maybe even triple tourism coming to our county by simply becoming cannabis friendly. And that's one of the things I'm positioning myself in. I have the ability to literally cure the damage caused by the COVID-19 shutdowns.
You're preaching to the choir, man. I agree with 100% with everything you're saying and what cannabis can do. It can bring back the economy in a heartbeat if they opened it up to free market and not with all the regulations that we have out here in California. It's so bad in California that the illicit market is still thriving. And while there was a boom initially to the COVID with people hoarding, that the legal shops, the bell curve is coming down because of the economy. People are going to the illicit stores because it's a lot cheaper.
Well, if you have legalized recreational cannabis or medical marijuana, there's only three entities that are profiting from this. You've got the government who's taking the $10, $15, $20, $30 per tax per sale. They get it, and then they use it to prop up their governments to cause you more harm. The next one is the True Leaves and the dispensaries, the national companies. These guys are making a killing off of this, but this money is not going into the local economy. And then you have the last ones. You've got the growers. Here in Florida, only a handful of growers that paid a big, huge money and a bunch of bribes got the growing contracts. So those three entities are the only ones that profit. But when you have what I call a spending-based cannabis platform, where basically you're just saying that cannabis is free, people can come and use it, buy it, grow it, do whatever they want to do with it. The tourism that comes to a place like Pinellas County will more than make up for the tax benefits, and that money that comes into the economy will go to the hotels, the restaurants, the workers. The people of the county are the ones that will benefit, not just the government, not just the growers, not just the huge dispensary companies.
It's a no-brainer.
Yes, it is, unless you're a politician.
That's why I'm always hitting my head up against the wall going, everything you've said, but it's a no-brainer. But why can't they see that? It's just, at the federal level as well. I mean, just the Republicans won't budge. The Democrats
this is exactly what I'm saying. You say, why can't they? Well, we all know who they are. They're dyed-in-the-wool politicians that don't give a damn about anybody else. They're there to make their own deals and to make their own money. What I'm talking about is the people. I'm a sheriff's candidate by the people, for the people. And the people, if they elect me, we can take this over, and we don't have to ask anybody. I don't have to ask anybody. All they need to do to have exactly your dream position is to vote me as sheriff in Pinellas County. And I'm hoping that once I get into office here and I show the rest of the country how this can be done here, that it will spawn a whole flourish of candidates just like me in sheriff's races all across the country that the people can elect and have the same freedom for themselves.
I mean, and it's not only addressing the cannabis issue, it's addressing the use of force issue as well.
A good sheriff can address every single concern that the people have. One of the things that just happened in LA, they did $150 million defunding. I don't know whether anybody's paying attention to this, but they build police palaces, huge monstrosities. Basically, I call it here the Pinellas County punishment machine. All the police agencies, all the courthouses, all the jails, all of that costs billions of dollars. And here, our own sheriff Sheriff Galtieri, in just 9 years as a sheriff, he took $2.3 billion on just the budget of the sheriff's office, built a $100 million jail on top of the $2.3 million, built a $100 million police station on top of that, and they're literally raping the public for money for this expanded police state. And we're seeing that expanded police state trying to enforce the right against the protesters, the right to protest. That's what we paid for, and what we need to do is pull that money back. But again, you're not going to get a politician to do that. But if you have a sheriff come in like me, I can literally cut the budget myself. I can literally cut $100 million out of the Pinellas County Sheriff's budget the first year I'm in office, and I'm telling people I'll cut it 25% across the board, starting with my own paycheck.
Wow.
That's so wow. Okay. So no, it's amazing. And there's something that we just learned that's happening out here, which is it's appalling. And we're trying to look into it to see what can be done. But on Saturday night amongst the protests, and since then, the LAPD has detained 1,000, maybe 2,000 people at the Jackie Robinson field owned by UCLA. And they've got all these people crammed in there, we're hearing, and they haven't been booked. They haven't been processed. And it's been since Saturday. We're talking 4 or 5 days
I'm seeing it all around the country. They're massive violations of constitutional rights, which is another reason to vote a constitutional sheriff in like myself. It's a real simple concept. Read the Constitution. It's not that complicated. But you have sheriffs all across this country. Every single one of them you see out there beating protesters is violating constitutional rights. And if you have a constitutional sheriff, and we've seen a couple of them, you've seen the constitutional sheriffs. They're the ones that are going out there greeting the protesters, kneeling with the protesters, praying with the protesters, laying their shields down. Those are constitutional officers. And those are the people that we need to elect all across the country. And a sheriff has to be a constitutional officer if he's going to be in control of the force of the police. And if he's not, he's a tyrant.
Yeah, I said all this could have been avoided. All the looting and all that stuff could have been avoided because I don't believe it's a very small percent, if any, of the protesters, in my view, of who's looting. It's a lot of criminal activities, criminal gangs taking advantage, opportunists taking advantage. So if all the police, instead of walking down the opposite way with their riot gear on, line the streets, National Guard line the sides of the streets like a parade, and let the protesters do their thing and peacefully protest, there would be no looting and everybody's peaceful. It'd be that simple. Or when they say, they asked in Anaheim where we live, they had a protest, peaceful, police were standing there in riot gear, and they started chanting, "Take a knee." Like, that's all they wanted was take a knee, and they couldn't do it. I don't get it. Like, you can watch that video and say there was nothing wrong with it, or there's some kind of defense. And we're attorneys. We're going back and forth going, if he came to us to defend him, how could we defend that? And we're really banging our heads up against the wall going, we can come up with some good arguments on a lot of shit.
Well, I can take it even a step further than that. If the police weren't so hated, if they weren't abusing the population, if the people in their communities didn't hate and distrust them so much, the police officers should actually be able to walk within the crowd, shoulder to shoulder. And then if they see somebody acting up, then they can take action. But because they prey on the people instead of defend and protect the people, they don't feel comfortable themselves. They're cowards for not wanting to walk amongst their own people.
Yeah, there's that. I think it was a sheriff in Flint, Michigan, did that.
Yes,
walked with him. I think he was.
And look at the response he got.
He was one of the earliest ones that I saw, and what pissed me off was no news media initially picked that up. I saw it literally on my local TV, local news, because I got tired of all the other ones, and it was local news. And I think you get the best news from local news because they're actually showing you the news, not commenting on it for 24/7. But
here we've had a lot of the news agencies literally lying to the people of Pinellas County. They had an incident where they claimed that somebody threw a water meter cover up at the St. Pete Police Department, and that caused them to open fire on them with flashbang grenades, tear gas, and rubber bullets. All these people that were peacefully kneeling down in front of the police agencies, asking them to take a knee at the time. Well, I actually went and got the surveillance camera footage from the St. Pete Police Department. I put it on my YouTube channel, McLynas for Sheriff on YouTube, and it actually shows a police officer throwing the water meter cover onto the front porch, and they were throwing flashbang grenades at the crowd before that cop even did that. And here in Pinellas, I also have a lot of videos of the St. Pete Police Department. They have people protesting out in the area right in front of the police department. They open the door and literally start throwing flashbang grenades at these people in what they call stingers. They burst like a firework, and they've got a little bit of phosphorescence in it, so it lands on you, burns a hole through your clothes, and hurts you. And literally, these people were doing nothing. They weren't throwing anything. They were literally kneeling and sitting, and they opened the door and threw grenades at these people. And then they chased them down and arrested them when they weren't doing anything wrong. And this is what's going on here. This is what's going on all around the country. Yeah, as sheriff, I have the right to go over there and investigate this, and I would arrest that cop that threw that grenade. This is the difference between having a sheriff that protects the people and one that preys on the people.
Or that you have your department, when one guy does something, they fucking tackle him. Could just imagine if a pedestrian were to get involved in that and try to stop that, it would not turn out well for the pedestrian. It just wouldn't.
No. Well, it's my position that in all agencies across the country, we have approximately a 30% split all the way down the line. You've got a third of the police department that is corrupt bastards that will beat your ass because it's fun, that are racist, that got the badge so they could bully people around and boss them around. Then you've got the other end of the spectrum. You've got a third of the police officers that are actually good guys. They came here to do the job right. They want to protect the people. They want to serve their community, and they're honorable and ethical officers. And then you have that middle third, and that middle third will go whichever way they're paired with. So if they're paired with a dirty cop that day, they'll be dirty that day. If they're paired with a good cop, they'll be good. And my job is to come into the Pinellas County Sheriff's Department, fire the good third, fire the bad third, put the good third in charge, and hope we can save the middle third.
Yeah. I like your plan. I really do. I hope you get in there and change things and show people that this can be done, instead of people being apathetic and thinking their voice doesn't count or their vote doesn't count. It's you got to get up and do something. And hopefully there's enough people who. And in this day and age, I think you might be at the right time for people who want that change.
Well, interestingly enough, since I put my website up, I've had views on my website from 29 different countries, from 42 different states, and from 490 different cities. 80% of my donations are coming from outside my county, which means people are hearing what I'm saying and my plan's resonating for them. And they're starting to understand that if we can put one sheriff like me in office, that it'll start the floodgates of sheriffs just like me all around the country.
What do you think about like some sort of possible residency, I don't know, requirement or something where like someone just made a comment, I like this one, I'll put it up, that these cops don't live in the communities that they're supposed to protect. So they don't really care. What if we had more cops that were from the communities that live there, and maybe they would care a little more?
Well, our current sheriff, Robert Galtieri, he and his wife have 3 appointed positions that the governor gave them. Gee, you have to look into why they gave these people 3 appointments. But they collect $355,000 a year in taxpayer money in paychecks. And then they live in a mansion out in Eastlake, outside in the suburbs here. Do you really think that he can relate to the people in St. Pete? Do you really think he can relate to the working class people? He made all these people shut their businesses down and not be able to feed their children while he went home and cashed his big fat taxpayer paid paychecks. You're right. These people are not in tune with the community. They don't know what's going on. They don't even care to know what's going on. And that has to change. They've got to be in the communities they serve. The police officers should live in the communities they serve.
I like that too. I definitely would like to see a lot more of that.
What is your demographic in where you're running?
We're mostly Democratic by about 10,000 registered voters. We've got probably a 20% minority base. And the problem with that is we also have a large white community that's older, and a lot of those are rah-rah law and order people, and they don't understand that all these people that they're having locked up, they're paying for at $124 a day. The bottom line is there's a massive amount of money being stolen out of everybody's pockets to keep all these people in jail for minor offenses, something I'm going to put an end to as well.
Yeah, I think that term law and order got hijacked at some point because – because you should be law and order. I mean, there should be law and order, but it doesn't mean you have to be abusive. It doesn't mean you have to have abusive force. It doesn't mean you can do what just happened. It doesn't mean anything. It just doesn't mean any of that. Someone robs, steals, they break the law, they pay the consequence. But go ahead.
Another problem with that law and order is there are 3 specific things that prevent police officers from being held accountable under the same laws that you and I are held accountable under. We have a police officer bill of rights. It's actually in Florida legislation. It's a law that the police officers have all these special rights because they wear badges. And each one of those rights – yes. Well, that's one of the 3. But each one of these specific things in the police officer's Bill of Rights is literally the opposite of what you would do if you were trying to convict a criminal. Like, as an example, if a police officer is accused of a crime, he is supposed to be shown all the evidence against him. They're supposed to get transcribed statements of all the witnesses against them, any videos, anything, any investigative reports. All that's supposed to be handed to the officer and their lawyer. They get to sit and read it for a month if they want to, and then they get questioned. Have you ever heard the police doing anything like that to a regular citizen they're trying to convict? Hell no. Then we have, like you say, the qualified immunity, which has been stretched so ridiculously far that a cop can do just about anything. I mean, you heard President Trump say, I could walk down the middle of New York and shoot somebody dead and get away with it. Well, that's exactly what's happening to the police. And the last thing is the police union contracts. I've read the contract here in our county, and I can't believe that anybody would sign such a royal piece of crap that takes away the ability to fire and get rid of these dirty cops is what they have here. So when I'm sheriff, I'm not going to get into a contract agreement with these people. They can go take a flying hike.
Wow. Yeah, and that qualified immunity, I was reading a little bit about it today, and oh my God, it's convoluted, and no wonder the cops get off 99% of the fucking time.
Well, there's a U.S. Supreme Court pondering about 8 or 10 of those cases combined here, and we're hoping that there's going to be a little bit of reeling back. But from what I've seen from the U.S. Supreme Court, again, we can't count on them. So the best way to resolve that is, again, to elect a sheriff who will bring in his own interpersonal policies and stop signing these ridiculous union contracts that let cops get away with murder.
Wow. That's what we need. I'm saying.
A good sheriff can solve all of these problems.
That's crazy. That's a great angle. Never thought about it that way. We're always looking at the state senate, state representative. That's how we usually look at it, as opposed from your viewpoint. And that's a great fucking angle. I love it.
I'm trying to tell people and convince people that you don't have to beg your legislators who are already being bribed and lobbied by people to work against you, including your own police agencies. Like here, they went for medical marijuana. Guess who was up in Tallahassee arguing that it's dangerous? Sheriff Galtieri. They wanted to do mass incarceration reform and prison sentence reform. But guess who was in uniform up in Tallahassee arguing against it? Sheriff Galtieri. He would literally wear his uniform up at the state legislature, stand at that podium as if he represented the people of Pinellas County. If 67% of the voters here wanted free cannabis, then why is he in uniform up there claiming to represent the people of Pinellas County, telling them, the legislators, that we don't want legalized cannabis here? The sheriff's departments are the ones that are keeping these laws against the people, and if you have the right sheriff, he won't be up there arguing against you.
So you have just medical there now, is that correct?
We only have medical here, yes.
And 60 what percent voted for medical?
I think it was, at the time it was 64% voted, but the recent polls show that 67% of the population, the voters here, are favorable to recreational cannabis for adults.
Is there any movement towards recreational cannabis at this point, or
no? Because they passed the medical marijuana here by doing a amendment to the Florida Constitution, and there was a process where you could get petitions, put it on a ballot, and have the people vote on it. Well, after they were able to pass the medical marijuana, as soon as it was passed, every local town and county and city dumped all of their own restrictions and requirements on it. They had to be in a dispensary. They had to be 1,000 yards from a school, all this other nonsense. You can go across the street from my daughter's high school and buy OxyContin from CVS. But medical marijuana, you had to be out 1,000 yards away. Right. So all of these different laws and convoluted crap are what the legislators are passing down to us. And you can, again, skip all that by going straight to a constitutional sheriff.
Wow. Love the angle.
Absolutely. Yeah, that sounds. I mean, I'm glad you reached out to us. I think I was live or something, and I saw your comment come up.
I've seen you guys' videos before. I watch them; they're hilarious, and I'm a fan. So when I saw you out there, you were talking about a lot of this stuff, and I just thought, damn it, I need to tell these guys there's an option. Typed it into the.
No, that's great. That's great. Because we tell people to shut the fuck up. And we get a lot, believe it or not, from all those good cops that are out there. And there's quite a few. We get DMs all the time thanking us for our script, for keeping people level-headed. This is, even though they're going to have to go on to the next guy who's going to blab and, rat on themselves by talking, they don't mind it. I mean, we get a lot of text and DMs thanking us for teaching people their rights and how to do it politely. And that's it, and so hopefully that can spread as well.
Well, and
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, so before I get this off my mind, one of the things I think we'd like to do, and with someone like yourself, if you become sheriff, we'd be happy to come out and give a seminar to the cops, teaching them this is what we're teaching our people to do when you confront them. And if you hear these words, you're dealing with someone who knows their rights. Treat them appropriately. Treat everybody appropriately. I think the script should be, like common for cops to know.
Well,
what do you think?
But the problem is this, and I think we heard it on Live PD from one of the cops on Live PD. I think Mark, I think it was Sticks, that the attitude and the philosophy has to change, because instead of an officer pulling you over for a red light violation or a taillight being out and him walking up to your car and going, okay, here's your ticket. Here. Instead, their attitude and the way they're trained is to whatever you pull them over for, that's not what you want. The cop wants more. They want to get into your car. They want to see if they can find something else out. And that's why they start talking to you and asking you about your day and where you're coming from. And, that's when you have to invoke the script. I'm not discussing my day. I don't consent. Am I being detained? Am I free to go? If I'm detained, then I shut the fuck up. It's that simple. But the cops have to stop that attitude of every stop should be more than what I pulled you over for. That's got to change at that level.
It's more than just a cop attitude. What it is like here in Pinellas County, the Pinellas County Sheriff's deputies have what's known as performance reviews. And they are literally graded on how many stops they make, how many citations they write, and how many arrests they make. And they're also required to do something that's called a FIR, a field interview report, meaning they're supposed to literally drive around and just stop somebody for no reason that violated no law and have a conversation with them to see if they could arrest them. And what you're talking about is something that also gets solved by a sheriff like me. It's what I call a pretextual stop in advance of an unconstitutional search. What they do here, and they do probably all over the country, is they make up an excuse. You went over the line. You did this, that. We've got videos all over the country of the cops of dash cams showing they didn't do what the cops are accusing them of.
All the time.
They get pulled over, and just like on Live PD, I love watching that show with my daughter, because as soon as they pull somebody over, we start the countdown. How long before they say, is there anything in the car we need to know about?
Mark breaks them down.
They try and bully them into letting them into the car. And all of that, again, can be solved with a constitutional sheriff. As the sheriff of Pinellas County, I'm going to end those pretextual stops. I'm going to end the searches of the cars. I'm going to literally get rid of all of the drug dogs, because they're obsolete. If they can smell cannabis, they can smell hemp. Hemp's legal here. So there's no need for an obsolete dog that smells cannabis and hemp and arrest these people over both. So the bottom line here is, again, if you have a constitutional sheriff, I will tell my officers, knock it off. We don't need to search their car. We don't need to force these people to get out of their cars and search their pockets and harass the public like we do. It's over. If I'm elected sheriff, all that nonsense is over. If you did commit a crime and you did drive recklessly, you're going to get the ticket, and that's going to be it.
Yeah, and that's what we tell people. If they pull you over for a headlight violation and you may have had one or two drinks, but you know what? I mean, you obviously weren't impaired because they didn't pull you over for being impaired. And
you guys do the shut the fuck up thing all the time, but I'd like to see you telling these people a little bit more that these stops, the conversation is always consensual. You do not have to say anything. If you don't want to talk to a cop, you have the right to literally not say anything and walk away. The key is it's consensual. The conversation is consensual, and every lawyer and even every cop will tell you, don't talk to cops.
Well, do you? I don't want to embarrass you, but do you know the script? The last 25 words you ever say to the police?
I've heard it a couple times. I can't say it off the top of my head.
No. The reason that I knew that you didn't really know it is because within the 25 words, and if you go back, you look at down our page, we explain, and we do it over and over again. Actually, that the script isn't really meant so you don't get arrested. It's if you get arrested, you didn't do anything to fuck yourself.
You protected your rights, yeah.
But the script is when they first walk up, why did you pull me over? That starts to talk the clock ticking on how long they have to give you the ticket or form some probable cause to keep you further. And then when they ask you about your questions, ask questions about your day, where you're coming from, what's that smell? The best thing the most polite thing we ever came up with, as opposed to I'm not talking, fuck you, is I'm not discussing my day.
I like that, yeah.
I'm not discussing my day. We took us probably a year or so to come up with these 25 words. And it's just, I'm not discussing my day or night. That's it. I'm just not. And if they keep asking questions, you can't break. You can't break and finally give in. It's, am I being detained or am I free to go? If I'm being free to go, see ya. And if I'm being detained, I invoke the fifth, and then you shut the fuck up. I mean, because we tell people you go to bed with your Fifth Amendment rights. You wake up, you sleep with it, you walk around with it. We try to explain to people that they don't have to Mirandize you. They didn't read me my rights before I consented. They don't have to until there's until you're detained. Or Mark can go into a little more of that in detail, but that's why the whole thing of I'm not just don't help them, fuck yourself. And unfortunately, it shouldn't be that way. They shouldn't be there to get you to fuck yourself. If you were swerving and you're drunk, they should rip you out of the car and take you to jail and throw you in the drunk tank. I mean, absolutely. That's
another thing I'm going to do. I'm going to end DUI checkpoints and stops. I think they're unconstitutional too. And instead, what I'm going to implement here is a dial DUI. So I'm going to make everybody on the road a DUI cop. If you see someone swerving all over, you dial DUI. We'll be out there. We'll follow them, check them, and pull them over. Instead of harassing 500 people at a check stop to get 2 people arrested, we're not going to do that anymore. Again, constitutional sheriffs, we can get more drunk drivers off the road by using something as simple as a dial DUI.
Yeah, no, I've seen those signs around too. I'm not sure where, but I have seen that before.
Yeah, it works. Another thing we're going to do here is I'm going to launch a website, and I'm hoping to take it national, where it's going to be like a Yelp review for cops. If you get pulled over, get the cop's name, you can come on our website, review exactly what that cop did to you, whether he was a good cop or a bad cop, what he said to you, what he did wrong to you, and put it on that particular police agency's website, their section of my website. And I'm hoping that this will cause the community to be able to follow the bad officers in their own community and pressure their police agencies to get rid of these bad guys. And then on the other side of the spectrum, cops that are good. Hey, I got pulled over by Mr. Rogers, and he was a fantastic officer. He was very polite and nice. Good job. Those are the ones that they'll have to support and promote while they get rid of the other ones. So I'm hoping to open this up nationwide. I'm calling it so far Andy's List from Andy Taylor. It's like Angie's List. So that's something I'm going to roll out with Pinellas County taxpayer dollars, so we'll keep an eye on police officers all across America.
You know, we have a really, really good friend of ours. You should check out his Instagram, Mr. Checkpoint. And he has an app. He already has an app like that, and his hashtag is hashtag AFTP. Always film the police. And
I say that all the time.
And I mean, and he actually has an app where you can put in the info of a cop, and there's a database like that already started up. And that just needs to be more reinforced so people are held accountable.
Yeah, I have several videos on my YouTube channel of the Pinellas County Sheriff's Department harassing me too. And, ridiculous stuff if you didn't watch it and see it, you wouldn't know what was going on. But the problem is that most people in rural white America don't understand what the police do because they aren't patrolling them the same way they are in the inner cities and in the communities that are struggling to survive. And so it's got to be done evenly across the board. There's no reason that any police officer to ever treat anybody disrespectfully, ever swear at them, ever curse at them. I'm going to have the most professional, kind, and courteous police agency that exists in the United States. And I'm hoping we can set an example for every country and every county and every state across this land.
Well, we'll keep blasting you out for sure. I love what you're saying, and hopefully you're successful, and hopefully we can connect with the 67% of the cannabis users at a minimum to get you in there so you can institute these policies on cannabis and all the use of force and all that other stuff you've talked about.
We are happy to endorse you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I need you to tell your readers what I need now is donations, because right now I can't get enough donations within Pinellas County because I'm not a part of the Good Old Boy Network. Well, Sheriff Galtieri has all his political cronies throwing him money hand over fist. He's got $70,000 in his war chest.
Yeah,
But my job is to go out to the rest of the country and try and get donations from the rest of the country to support this type of a concept. And if I can get donations from outside the county, I can actually beat this guy very easily.
Yeah, I mean, we recommend anybody can afford whatever it is, $5, $10, $20. It all adds up, and it's such a fucking shame that money's an issue to get anybody on a ballot. It just really is a shame, and you probably don't have enough time now. I mean, it's still non-essential. The petition gathering still non-essential.
That ended. The deadline was May 11th. They didn't give you even enough time. They ended it during the pandemic.
So how long do you have to pay the price to be on the ballot?
I have until June 12th at noon to come up with $10,300.
June 12th?
Yes, 8 days, 7 days from now, a week from now.
Wow. What?
And this is how they try and keep people like me from coming in and making real change. This is part of the process, and this is why the people across America have to not let them get away with this.
Wow. Are you on Facebook? Someone asked.
Yeah, I'm McLynas for Sheriff on Facebook as well, and I typically write 2 or 3 different stories about some of the stuff that's going on around here every day.
Well, great. We'll start sharing that all around and make sure our listeners and followers do the same. Very, very happy that you reached out to us, and we also interviewed and are endorsing Christopher Cole out there in Florida.
Well, Christopher Cole actually canceled his campaign a couple of days ago.
Did he?
Yeah,
we didn't know that.
He had some things that are going on, and he called me and let me know that he was going to cancel his campaign and go in a different direction right now. But that's not the last we'll see of him. He's a great guy.
He is.
Wow. He is. That's unfortunate to hear, but we wish him well. If you talk to him, we had actually sent him a whole ordinance on cannabis policy. So when he was pushing that issue, he could try to explain it to the older guys that, hey, this, here's a sample ordinance. But I'm sorry to hear that.
Well, he's still very politically active. He's still pushing his freedom agenda all through every channel he has. He's actually supporting candidates like me to get elected. So he's still doing a great job. It's not the last we've seen of him. He's going to be in office before too long. You will see him in office. Nice. Very good.
All right.
Last thing I just want to say, I have a simple campaign slogan. It's vote McLynas and free Pinellas. But the people can do that in every single one of their towns. You get a constitutional sheriff, you can free your county.
Wow.
There you heard it right here. James McLynas for sheriff. Please go help support him. Go to his website, donate. This is a very good man with very good ideas about how to make and effectuate real change and real reform within law enforcement. So be sure to check him out. And we thank you for joining us here on the Pop Brothers at Law Shut the Fuck Up show. Be sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms, and be sure to check out our podcast, Cannabis Talk 101, on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast. And James, we are going to have you on the Cannabis Talk 101 podcast shortly, as soon as we're up with that. And we will be back in touch to have you there. Once again, thank you for coming.
Thank you, gentlemen, for all your help. I greatly appreciate it. I do.
Absolutely our pleasure. All right. We will talk to you soon, everybody. Have a safe weekend. And remember, shut the fuck up when cops ask questions. And we are